Morning, welcome back to another vid, completely dishevelled with the facial hair looking in a right state. I mean, seriously, you can't really work it out, but it's a mess, man. It's really unkempt. It's funny because I was watching Owen, the boss of 77's vid late last night, and he was talking. He sits a little bit closer to the camera than I do. It's like full on in your face, proper eye contact, or beard contact, looking right at it. And not that I want to make you paranoid. Wait and see in his next video. He'll be sat at the back of the room now. I've said that. There's nothing wrong with it. Keep doing it. But he was talking about how he's got a lot of grey hair in his beard, and yeah, I don't know if it comes out on cam, but goodness me, especially like around the sides and a little bit like there as well. It's just like bloody hell, unbelievable. But then again, there's the odd speck, more than the odd speck in the hair. I don't dye it. I can't be arsed with that. Even if I go full on grey, I just be a silver fox. Be a Fabrizio Ravanelli or a Philip Schofield. Just embrace it. Embrace the silver fox is what I say. As I look at a silver game here. But more of that in a second. So yeah, just a couple of things. I've got the Xbox One in the background. Basically, there's a new update. I didn't even know about it. It's the first time I put the Xbox One on for a good week or two, maybe. And yeah, the whole dashboard has completely changed. It's just bloody hell. You get used to one thing, and then they change it. Unbelievable. So there's that. I've just uploaded a Thursday drive, or actually, as I talk, I'm uploading it right now. So that'll probably be ready later on tonight, California time, US time. Probably Friday, I guess, in the UK, because of the time difference. But we'll see. It'll be up when it's up. Same with this. Probably Friday for this one as well. So there's that. So I've got 4 games. Now, this is going to be a pickup vid, specifically for the Super Nintendo. There's a couple of reasons why. I mean, I do have a few other games that I've bought recently. I've got another couple arriving tomorrow, a couple of modern games. In fact, 3. I've got, for someone who's really cutting back on modern games, buying them at launch, I've bought 3 at the same time. But I really want them. So when that happens, I've always been, consistent with that. When a game comes out that I really want, I don't mind paying the retail, albeit I did get a little bit discount. I don't mind doing that. If it's a game I'm not bothered about and I can easily wait, then I will. Whereas in the past, I used to buy them all straight away, just piss away money like it was going out of fashion. But these days, I am spending money, but I'm buying things that I want. And if I can wait, I will. So I could have waited for these, to show these SNES games, 4 PAL SNES games. But the reason I wanted to keep them separate is 2 reasons, like I say. One, because all 4 of them actually are quite nostalgic, kind of, even though one of them I don't think I played back in the day. But it's still nostalgic, and I'll talk about them. So it's the fact that they're all nostalgic is one reason. And also, just the fact that I think, because I love the Super Nintendo so much, and because it is so nostalgic, that word again, so nostalgic to me, that I think it kind of deserves its own pickup video. And I know I think I've done 1 or 2 separate SNES pickup vids in the past, but maybe in the future, I quite like the idea of separating kind of the modern and the retro stuff. Although I guess a lot of people, where do you draw the line with retro? Do you say anything kind of pre-millennium is retro and then anything after that isn't? But then if you go along with that thinking, that means you're classing PS2 and Xbox as modern. And you look at those games, they're not modern. They're anything but, for the most part. So so there's that. But yeah, so I may do that going forward, or I may just kind of lump them all in from time to time. Might mix it up a bit. It'll be what it'll be. But I wanted specifically this SNES pickup video to be just a separate standalone SNES pickup vid. Now, one more thing I'll say before I show the games, because this is turning into more of a vlog. I've bought a new system of sorts. Now, it's arriving tomorrow, and that system is, controversially for me, is the Retron 5. So, yeah, system of sorts. I've been on the fence about this Retron 5 for a good couple of years, or whenever it first came out, 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was a couple of years ago. And I know a lot of people have talked about it on YouTube. I was watching a couple of vids last night. I watched Rob, 2D Champion. I watched his vid last night that he did about 2 years ago. Now, I watched it at the time. I didn't leave a comment, I don't think, at the time. But I know I watched it because the like button was kind of embedded. So I'd obviously liked it back when I watched it. So, and I remember him doing it anyway. So I don't know why I didn't leave a comment now. It's kind of weird. I usually do. But, so yeah, I've watched a load of videos recently and, going back a year or 2. And I've been on the fence with the Retron 5 because ultimately it's a form, if it isn't emulation, which it kind of is, it's a form of glorified emulation. You do need, to my knowledge, the actual cart unless you can download ROMs and use like an SD card or something. But maybe that's one way of doing it, but certainly one way of playing it. The main way of playing these retro games is you will need the original cards. And so because you need that, that to me, I can just about allow it, because it's not quite emulation if you're using the original cards. I mean, I know it's kind of downloading ROMs and doing all that kind of stuff. Glorified emulation, like I say. But for me, as someone who, as you'll know, buys PAL games, obsessed with PAL retro games, when it comes to modern games, it's full-on American. I'm not that stupid. But PAL is retro simply because of nostalgia, or largely retro. There's the odd system here and there I let slide. PS1 being one of them, and whatever else. N64, I guess. But, yeah, I'd been put off by getting it, but I think as someone, like I say, who buys PAL games, who collects PAL Super Nintendo games, I think it just makes sense. Because this TV behind me is a new, relatively new, I've only had it like a few months. It's a HDR, 4K, all that kind of stuff. It's great for Xbox One, Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, all that kind of stuff. Future-proof, essentially. But I do have another TV just tucked around the corner there, much smaller, and it's a multi-region one. Now, essentially what multi-region is, it allows me to connect PAL systems. Like, for example, my PAL not Super Nintendo. Well, yeah, that is set up. But I specifically use it for my PAL PS1. I've got my Sega Saturn set up, and a few others. And it gives a decent picture. It's not amazing, because it's an American TV which allows a PAL signal. It's not a full-on PAL TV, so the picture quality's decent. It looks all right. It's not terrible. If it was, I'd have sent it straight back. But it's not full-on. It's not like a CRT, for example. It really isn't. And as a result of it being a modern multi-region TV, it's got the HDMI inputs and all that kind of stuff. It's not really set up to play PAL, even though it accepts PAL signal. It's not really set up to play PAL Megadrive, Super Nintendo, N64, all that kind of RGB and like aerial input stuff, because the picture quality looks bad. So what I tend to do for my SNES games, I tend to play 90% of them on that Superboy, that handheld, which I showed a while back, which is really good. It plays American, PAL, Japanese games. It's a small screen because it's a handheld, but I absolutely love it. It's really nice, and it's portable, so I can take it anywhere. But when it comes to setting up my PAL SNES and my PAL Megadrive, both of which I own, which I've had on pickup videos 2 or 3, 4 years ago, whenever it was, the picture quality is just not very good. It really isn't. I've got an American Genesis, I've got an American Super Nintendo, and I've got an old American CRT, and the picture quality looks good, but that's American games, and of course with the nostalgia, again, it's got to be PAL for me, for the most part anyway. And ultimately, what I'm trying to say here is that I just think, as a Brit living in America who buys PAL games, the best way, well listen, the ultimate way would be to import a PAL CRT, but that's mental. It's madness, it's lunacy. Yeah, the telly would be cheap, 40, 50 quid if that, but the shipping would be several hundred. And then you convert that to dollars, so it will be even more. It'll just be so expensive for what it is. And then what if it breaks down because it's an old TV? What if it breaks down almost straight away or after a short amount of time? I've just wasted hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. And it just doesn't seem worth it. So, to get a Retron 5, it probably is the best solution for me. That way I can play the American games on there if I really want to, but I can specifically, primarily play my PAL stuff. So I think it's the best of both worlds. The only thing that has put me off buying this thing in the past, and I'm still a little bit on the fence with it, is that obviously it gives an upscaled, high-definition version of your PAL games for the Megadrive. Oh, the screen just gone off, brilliant, in the back there. That's kind of annoying, you know, if you don't use your Xbox for a while, or your PlayStation, the screen kind of dims. I don't know why it's annoying. It's saving energy. Maybe I'm annoyed that I'm saving energy. I should be pleased with it. Saving money as well, probably, even though it's pennies. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, the whole thing, being someone who wants the ultimate nostalgic, authentic experience, I would love a CRT. But the Retron 5 probably makes sense. Now, the other reason I've got the Retron 5, or will be getting it tomorrow, is because I want to start doing regular gameplay vids. And with the multi-region TV that I've got, like I say, it's just not going to work. The picture quality is bad enough, me playing it, so recording it and capturing it will be rubbish. Pointing a camera at it, like some other people do, I don't want to do that. For me, I don't like it. I like watching other people doing it. I really enjoy those videos, but for me, it's just something I don't want to do that for me on my channel. So the only realistic way, unless I just literally did 100% emulation through my computer, downloading ROMs and stuff, the closest way to being as authentic as possible is a Retron 5. So it's going to mean that the games look a little bit brighter, or a lot brighter, the colours, but ultimately it's still the same game. It's glorified emulation, but it's still using the same original cart. So it's like a halfway house. It's meeting you halfway. So I'll get to these SNES pickups in a minute, by the way. This is the whole point of the video, and it's turned into a vlog. But yeah, so I'm going to start doing soon, maybe next month, because obviously we're almost in November. Next month I'll start doing some SNES and maybe some Megadrive gameplay vids, and I'll show the box and I'll talk a little bit about the game, and then we'll do some gameplay. It may be live commentary, or it may be kind of like pre-recorded sort of glossing over of the game, but either way, I'll do that. And if you want to watch it, please be my guest, of course. Obviously, feel free. But just bear in mind that I am using a Retron 5. So even though it's the same game, the graphics are going to be a little bit upscaled and the colours might be brighter. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. From what little I've seen watching, YouTube vids, the Retron 5 doesn't look too dissimilar to the original game. Yeah, the lights are definitely more vibrant. That's unquestionable. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not really. But anyway, I digress. Let me just have a swig of drink. Strawberry Fanta. I don't drink a lot of fizzy drinks. I really don't. But these last few days, I've probably had about 4 or 5 of these things. Maybe it's just the additives and stuff. It's addictive. Got to stop doing it. So the 4 Super Nintendo vids. How long have I been talking? Bloody hell. Okay, so yeah, the 4 Super Nintendo vids games that I've got, are all nostalgic. I'm just looking at them now. The first one that I'm going to show, even though it's nostalgic, it's just more that I remember it. And a friend of mine had it. I must have played it, but I can't remember, but I must have done. The second one I'm going to show, I've never played it on the SNES, but I did have it on the Megadrive. So that's where the nostalgia ties in there. And I've always wanted to get the SNES version. The third game is just full on nostalgia. And the fourth game is also kind of full on nostalgia, but I've never played it up until recently, but it was one I always wanted. And I mean always wanted back in like 92 when I discovered the SNES, or when it came out. When me and my friends were all getting one, because I got mine Christmas 92. So to finally have it 25 years later, bloody hell, talk about taking my time. So anyway, the first game that I've got, these are all in really good condition, apart from one, but that's really hard to find in good condition, so I'll talk about that as and when I get to it. That'll be the third game. So the first one up is a shoot 'em up. It's the first level. It's kind of a vertical shoot 'em up, but eventually as the game progresses, it does turn into a horizontal one as well. It's quite, well, not particularly uncommon. It's a desirable game, put it that way. It's very uncommon to get in really good condition. Of course, I've waited bided my time to get this game, to get it in this kind of condition, but it came at a cost. Obviously, as I've said many, many times before, with the Super Nintendo, it really, cost comes down to condition, or that they're relative. If you want to get a cheap game, or sorry, if you want to get a game that isn't in good condition, then you're probably not going to pay a great deal for it. But that very same game in excellent condition, the difference could be $100 or more in between compared to the prices. I think I just about got that sentence out. Anyway, that game is Axelay. Again, apologies for the glare and the brightness, the reflection, all that kind of stuff. Pretty much say every vid. Not a lot I can do. I love the silver spines there with the Konami logos. Yeah, it's in really good condition. There's a couple of little dings on the sides, as you'd expect. But there's no crushing, none of that caper going on. So it's really crisp. There is a price sticker on there, but it's kind of a generic one. It doesn't say like a John Menzies or a Boots or a Woolworths or anything like that. I love how that Xbox just turns itself back on there, by the way. I didn't do anything. Bizarre. Big Brother's watching. That's what it is. So, but yeah, so it's a really good game. So yeah, a friend of mine had this back in the day. He absolutely loved shooters. So things like Axelay, UN Squadron, which I want to get back. Again, it's just waiting for one in great conditions at the right price is hard. What else did he have? Like Super Aleste, again, which I've got, albeit I've got it back in the UK. Yeah, loads of shoot-em-ups. He was absolutely obsessed with them, probably still is. And he had this one. The thing that I've got to say about this, unsurprisingly, it is rock hard. And I mean so difficult. Now, being difficult, or having difficult games, just goes hand in hand. It's synonymous with the Super Nintendo, and with 16-bit gaming in general. But honestly, trust me, when I say this is super hard, it's really, genuinely super hard. I've struggled to get off the first level so far. I think I got on to level 2. That's probably the best I've got thus far. Really difficult. And but it's good. It's addictive. The graphics look really good, albeit not amazing. When I put it on, I've got to be honest, I was expecting it to look a lot better than what it looks, but it's still good. And there's bosses further on into the game which do actually look a lot better than the first level. So maybe it's just the first level which is just a little bit kind of underwhelming and a little bit uninspiring. But it still looks pretty decent. But you've got to remember, it was a 1992 game, so it's an early one. It's one that came out in the first year of the Super Nintendo. So if you want to get this in good condition, it's not going to be cheap. I think you're looking at, probably looking at triple figures, potentially, for mint condition anyway. If you want it like kind of excellent, good to excellent condition, you're looking at kind of 60, 70, 80 quid. It's just one of those games. But yeah, you could be paying way, way more if it's like mint and untouched, like well over 100. It's just the way it is. So that's Axelate. Really, really pleased to get that. Just have a swig again of Addictive Fanta. Now, the next up, this is the game that I had this on the Sega Megadrive. So just to quickly fill you in, I had a SNES Christmas '92, and I got a Megadrive Christmas '93. Even though I played on the Megadrive like a good couple of years before, friends' houses, my cousin had one, but I didn't get my own Megadrive until 1993. And this is a game I got probably about a year later, there or thereabouts, 93, 94 time, I reckon. When did it come out? It must have been like 93, 94. I can't quite see. Yes, it's 1993. And what I love about this game, did you see it there? I don't think you did. What I love about this game is what I love about so many games on the Mega Drive and on the SNES. It's basically the same game, comes out for both systems, but it's a completely different experience. You know, it could have different levels, it could look different, it could have different music, the playability could be completely different, it could have a different feel to it. It could, like I said, it could have different levels, it could basically put them side by side. It's the same game in the sense that it's the same title, made by the same people, but it's just a completely different experience. In many ways, it was a great way to justify buying on both respective platforms. And it's a real shame. I mean, I know why developers don't do it, because it would cost them a fortune to make two versions. But it's a real shame that even in this day and age, you don't get like a PS4 and an Xbox One version of a game, but they're completely different. So like, I don't know, like a racing game or a shoot 'em up or whatever, release the same game made by the same people, but have the PS4 version have different levels. And then people would be inclined to buy both versions, because a lot of people have both systems. So I think that would be a really good way of making I guess the industry, keeping it fresh. But of course it would cost them an absolute fortune, and then there's a risk that people maybe wouldn't buy it. I'm just saying it would be nice. Maybe I'm a little bit using, you know, rose-tinted glasses and being a bit nostalgic there, because that's how it was in the Mega Drive and the SNES era. Many games were different. So that game, anyway, which is completely different on the Mega Drive, completely different, is Alien 3. The condition is amazing. It's almost mint. The bloke that I bought it from was really friendly, and he said he'd basically had it since new. He was listing a couple of other games as well, or selling a couple of others, which I was interested in. But in the end, I didn't end up buying them, because just, I guess, we're coming closer to Christmas, and I'm buying other stuff. I just thought, do I really need it now? I can wait. So yeah, so this is really, really good. Looks completely different to the Sega Mega Drive version. Now, I do prefer the Mega Drive version, but I say that because it's probably, well, it's probably down to nostalgia. It really does come down to what I had, familiarity. And because I played the Mega Drive version so much in 93, 94, 95 time, and it got very far in the game, maybe I finished it, I can't quite remember, but because I had it and I played it, and I've only just got this, that one sticks in my mind. So the one thing I will say, though, that I always found really frustrating about the Mega Drive version, which this game doesn't have, at least not so far, and what the Mega Drive version has is it's got like timed missions. So as soon as you start the game, there's a countdown. You've got to get to the end of the mission in like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it may be. And I always found that was very stressful, because it was difficult. It was a hard game anyway. So to do it when you're got that kind of, you're constrained with a time limit, I found it extra difficult. But I guess it added to the tense surroundings of the game, you know, because it was a tense game with aliens and all that kind of stuff. So I can see why they did that. But it stressed me out more than actually helped me out. It hindered me more than helped me. And there's something about the Mega Drive version, well, just that, I wasn't keen on. But the graphics look good, I thought the game's good, it plays well. Ultimately, it's the same in the sense that it's essentially a kind of a platformer of sorts. But it just looks different, it plays a bit different. And I would say, I do prefer the Mega Drive version, but again, bear in mind I've only just played this a couple of times. Give it a few days, weeks, months, years, I'll probably have more of a fair reflection of an opinion of it. And I may change my opinion, my mind. But yeah, so Alien 3, delighted to get it, but I think the Megadrive version possibly gets the edge for me. But really, really happy to get it. And so that's that one. Now, the third one, this is a full-on nostalgic game to me. Full-on nostalgic. I remember, like it was yesterday, being outside my building at school. What's the classroom? I couldn't even remember. It's been so long since I went to school, I can't remember what you call the bloody the thing. So outside the classroom, waiting for our form tutor to come back from lunch. And you know when all the people are lined up and they're waiting, going, where is he? He's late, what's going on? And during that time, while we were waiting, I was talking to a friend of mine called Luke. This would have been like kind of early 93. And he was saying, oh, how are you finding your SNES? Remember, because I got one Christmas 92. I was like, oh, it's great. I'm playing like Super Soccer and whatever else. F-Zero, Street Fighter 2, the Super Scope, all that kind of stuff. And he was like, he says, oh, yeah, I've been enjoying mine. I'm like, oh, what games you got? I didn't even know you had one. And he said he had this game. I'll show you it and then I'll talk about it. It's Rival Turf. And I was like, whoa, you've got Rival Turf? He's like, yeah. He says, I've nearly finished it. I said, you've got to lend me Rival Turf. He went, yeah, no problem. He says, what have you got? And I told him the games I've got. He wanted to borrow Super Soccer. Out of all the games I had, he wanted to borrow Super Soccer, which I did like, but it's a very basic football game. I do need to buy that back, actually, but it's a low priority. Even though it's a high priority in the sense of nostalgia, it's a low priority in terms of buying it back. I'll get it eventually. And it's an easy game and a cheap game to get. But yes, the very next day, we arranged that he would bring in Rival Turf and I would bring in Super Soccer. And I took this home and I couldn't wait to play it. Side-scrolling beat-em-up, like a Final Fight, if you like. And it was so, so good. Now, I did actually buy this game on the American Super Nintendo. And it would have been on a pickup vid going back, I don't know, like 2-3 years maybe. And it was in amazing condition. And we got it quite cheap, really. But the box art was terrible. It's got like 2 kids dressed up as like ninjas or whatever it is, with like bandanas on it. Just looks rubbish. Now, this isn't much better. The artwork's a little bit cheesy. It looks a bit cheap, really. But it brings back all those memories. When I look at this box, it reminds me of that day, early 93, standing outside the classroom. Well, actually, I guess it would have been the next day, wouldn't it? Because that previous day we were talking about it. But it reminds me of him bringing it into school, into that classroom, and seeing it, just of that era, of those days, and taking it home, like I say, and putting it on, the anticipation, the excitement, and then thinking, this is amazing. And there's certain levels. There's one level in particular, really, and it's the one, I think it's maybe 2 or 3 in, and you're just approaching like the outskirts of a stadium, and then you subsequently walk into the stadium. And every single time, it's like a park, I think, a park which leads into the outskirts of a stadium. And every single time I play that, it reminds me of when I originally played it back in 1993. It's amazing how the memory works, isn't it? It's really strange. So, yeah, and the funny thing about this is I put it on, the first time I played the PAL version, because remember I played the American version briefly 2 or 3 years ago. But I put this on, and my very first go, I got further than I'd ever got in my life, which is weird. How does that work? Sometimes you'll put a game on years later, and you do far better on your first attempt than you've ever done before. It was weird. I guess maybe your concentration levels improve, maybe, as you get older. You're a bit more patient and less impatient, and you just know what to do. You know how to take your time and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, but I got really far into the game. Now, I don't know how far, because I've not looked to see how many levels there are. I don't think it says on the back. I'm just having a quick look. It doesn't. But I'm going to hazard a guess. I must have got at least 3/4 of the way through. And I wouldn't have been surprised if I was approaching like the boss. Because I seemed to be approaching like this big building, like a hotel room or whatever it was. It seemed as if I was kind of getting towards the end of the game. Where the boss would have been like at the top floor or something. So, which I think Final Fight's a little bit like that, isn't it? Where you meet the boss. Sorry for any spoiler alerts. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm confusing it with another game. But yes, so really, really pleased to have this. Now, the thing about this game, it is in good condition. I don't know if you can see, kind of good. You see the bottom there somewhere, that's fine. The main problem, that side's pretty good. Is there any damage on there? Not really, a little scuff or two. But that's fine, a little bit of damage on the side there. The main one is on the sides here. And what the guy has done, he's taped down what were a couple of, not quite full-on rips, but minor ones, and he's taped it down. And do you know what? I'm not that bothered, because this, for whatever reason, although I think I've got an idea why, and I also think I touched upon this quite recently, but I'll mention it again. But this is a game which is so, so difficult to get in really good condition. honestly, 99% of the ones that are listed on eBay, when you do see a PAL English version, by the way, because there's foreign language versions, the text up here, but to find a PAL English version in excellent condition, or even good condition, well, good luck. You're going to be looking for quite a while, because they just don't appear for whatever reason, even though I think that reason is because, remember, this game came out in 1992, so it was a very early Super Nintendo game, and back then gaming was nowhere near as big, as mainstream as it is now. You know, now if you want to get like a Gran Turismo or a Forza or a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or an Uncharted, you know, you're not going to struggle to get that game now. You're not going to struggle to get that game in the future. There's going to be millions of copies available. But back then, gaming was pretty much still in its infancy in the early 90s. It wasn't mainstream. It wasn't really cool. It was still predominantly something that kids would do. I know adults played them as well, but it was kind of aimed for kids for the most part. And so not that many games were made. I guess they didn't think they'd be collectible. It was kind of a throwaway kids' interest, and they didn't make that many games. So throw in the fact that there's not many of these games available to begin with, then throw in the fact that they're 25 years of age and made of cardboard, there's not many left that are in good condition. So I think that's why they hold a premium, and that's why they are so hard to get. So I'm really, really delighted. This is one of, I hesitate to say Holy Grail, but let's use it anyway. It's kind of one of my many Holy Grails to get on the Super Nintendo. I guess the ultimate one would be to have it in absolutely pristine condition, but that would come at a huge cost, and I'm not sure I'm that bothered about it. So to get it in this condition, honestly, believe me, as someone who's looked for this game for many, many, many years, not just this last year or two, I've been looking for the best part of a decade for this in great condition. And I've seen a couple in decent condition, but hardly any, and that's 10 years of regularly looking. So to get it in this condition, which is probably a 6 or a 7, so it's not amazing, and I know ratings are subjective, but 6 or a 7 is actually very, very good, so really pleased to get that. And then last but not least, now this is a game which I didn't have first time round, going back to like the early 90s when I had my SNES, 1992, but it was a game which I saw in a copy of Super Play. And I remember, again, like it was yesterday, being in our assembly. It must have been at a lunchtime, and I was with a couple of friends of mine called Danny and Rob. Rob, who I still occasionally speak to. Danny just disappeared off the face of the earth, which is a real shame. He doesn't have Facebook and all that kind of stuff. He had a falling out with his family, going back a good few years ago, I subsequently found out, and he doesn't really speak to them anymore. It's just terrible, isn't it? You know, family arguments and stuff, absolutely insane. So maybe one day we'll get together and you know, we'll get in touch. But he's just disappeared from the grid. It's like nobody knows where he is. I think they know where he is. I think he was teaching abroad, like it was in France or Romania, or somewhere random like that, teaching English. But it's, yeah, a real shame that he doesn't get on with his family. But anyway, back when we were kids, we'd all hang around like each other's houses and at school and all that kind of stuff. One of my best friends, Danny, and another one of my best friends, Rob, and we were there in the assembly looking at a copy of Rob's Super Play magazine. And this was, I think it was either on the front cover, or if it wasn't on the front cover, it was one of the leading stories of like a preview. It may have been a review, but I think it was a preview, the one we were looking at, the issue we were looking at. And we were all like, that looks amazing. It's a platform game, basically. And all these years later, 25 years later, I'm only just getting it. Can you believe it? And it's so good. I really hesitate to use the phrase like kind of hidden gem or like a sleeper hit. But I'm probably going to have to use that term for this game. At least it is for me. Although, again, I'm blinkered with rose-tinted glasses. That game is Bob. And the animation on the game is so clever. The graphics are good. The playability is good. It's bright. It's colourful. This will be a game that I do a gameplay for, albeit on the Retron 5. It'll still look nice and it'll still look somewhat original. Even though, you know, bear in mind the high definition that the Retron 5 will bring. But yeah, it's in actually really good condition again. A couple of little minor marks, but it was really cheap. So if you want to have a look on eBay now and maybe get it, or maybe you want to wait for my gameplay and then buy it, or maybe you just want to look for someone else's gameplay. But honestly, I recommend this game. It's so good. The attention to detail, it's quite funny, it's quite humorous. In a very early 90s way, it's using a lot of wordage and terminology from the early 90s, like dude and psych, and all these kind of words that people predominantly maybe American maybe, or maybe in the UK as well would have used back then. So yeah, it's a really good game. It's really difficult though, but it's also really clever. Like there's certain things you can pick up, like perks, like there's like a rotary blades, like a helicopter, or there's like another one you can use which makes you bounce higher, and you can kind of jump off a level and then activate it mid-drop, and then you can bounce up, which is really nice. There's like a nuke bomb on there. There's some really nice touches, but you can be really stuck. You can fall down like a trap, for example, and if you've already used your perks, if you want to call it that, like the thing to bounce you out of trouble or the helicopter blades, if you've already used them, then you've got none left, and then you can't get out of the dead end that you're in. So that's kind of annoying. But I guess it makes you use those perks, again, if that's, we'll just call them perks. It makes you use them wisely, so it makes you think. So you've kind of got to plan ahead. Do I really need to use this here, or can I make the jump? So it's quite good in the way it does it. So yeah, bright, colourful, a nice variation of weapons. It just looks really good. So if you like your side-scrolling platform, slight contradiction there, because it's a combination of both. It's a platforming, side-scrolling, shoot-up kind of thing. Bit of everything going on. If you like those kind of games, you've got to check out Bob. It's really good. A stupid name. I'm not even sure what it stands for, by the way. Maybe it's obvious and I'm just missing it. Maybe that's just his name. But yeah, oh, it just says on the back, I think, there, doesn't it? Or maybe not. Maybe it does. Anyway, yeah, really good game, and I thoroughly recommend it. And it was quite cheap. I think it's like 25, 30 quid in really good condition. So absolutely, utterly delighted to have that. And I've wanted it for 25 years. 25 years? A quarter of a century. Absolutely unreal. So there we are. There's the 4 Super Nintendo vids. Games. Keep saying vids. So, yeah, that's that. Now, I'll have another video. I've just done the Thursday Drive vid. That was an experience, talking about that, like a religious kind of experience I had. I felt like I kind of raced through that video, no pun intended. I think I used that line as well in the actual vid. But yeah, I kind of talked non-stop. Maybe I should have paused for breath. But I just wanted to get the video done, so it's just all in one take. So there's that. So feel free to watch that if you want. Obviously, it's up to you. And also, there should be maybe 2 more videos before the end of the month, believe it or not. So it's a real kind of fast ending to the month when it comes to videos, because I want to do the diary vid that may be uploaded on the last day of the month. And then I'm going to do a vinyl vid as well, with maybe, might be some CDs, maybe not. And I know there's a Blu-ray, a music Blu-ray that I've bought, so I'll talk about that. So, yeah, that's it for now. I will have that Retron 5 gameplay videos, I guess, that may start next month in November. And feel free to give them a watch. It's something I really want to do. You know, I want to come on camera and I want to show the games and show the box art and the sides, and maybe talk a little bit about my history with the game, why I bought it, maybe how much I paid for it, if I remember, if it's relevant, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so we'll see how it goes. It might be rubbish, but it's just something I want to do for my channel, because, you know, when it comes to the SNES and it comes to the Megadrive, the Amiga, the ST, 16-bit gaming, you know, that is my kind of, my absolute thing, my speciality, if you like. I love talking about it. I love collecting them and buying them. It's just my thing. It takes me back to my kind of era as a kid. It's, again, that brilliant word of nostalgia, which we're all fond of, albeit some to different levels. Some take it to new extreme levels, and I think I'm one of those. But anyway, thank you for watching. Until my next vid, which will be very, very soon, then I'll see you later. Take care.